Alright guys, check out what we have here. Yes, another unboxing. And not too long after I got those alpines from another subscriber, we have yet more newts to check out today. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Salamander Wilds, your certified herpetologist and salamander enthusiast here, back with another video. And today, as you just saw, got a little package in my hands right now because another subscriber sent me some newts. Not alpines this time, actually a species I've never owned before, which is actually really exciting. And so this time around, I was actually sent some Japanese Firebelly newts, which is really super cool. Again, I've never had this species before, and I'm not really sure what the consensus is now, but from what I've read, there's 6 different races or subspecies depending on the region that they come from, and the variety I have here are the Kanto Japanese Firebelly newts. So I'm super excited about this. Let's get them out of the package. We're going to look at them, talk about them, get them into their enclosure. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment down below. Please subscribe. Consider becoming a member to the channel as well. You get early access to videos. Let's check out some Japanese Firebelly newts. Alright, so let's open this up. It's really cool to see that Morph Market packaging going on. I did not know that they have actual packages like that from Morph Market, so that was actually pretty neat to see. Let's see what else we got. Alright, got some styrofoam, helps to, you know, keep the temperature in check there, and of course some cushioning. Ooh, look at those. Yeah. I was told that these are juveniles, right, and they are currently aquatic. And there's 2 cups in here. I was sent 6 of them. Oh, look at these guys. Look at that. That is so cool. I've never had a Japanese Firebelly newt before. And look at the bellies. Look at the bellies. Just like I've seen in photos, and we'll reference some of those as we talk more about them as well. Definitely has that Kanto region belly, which is cool. Some nice Java moss in there that'll go right into the enclosure as well anyway. Put those to the side for a moment. Ooh, here we go. Yep. Look at how beautiful these newts are. Oh, I love this. So cool. Well, we got some black worms in there too. Not a bad thing at all. Not a bad thing. A little bit of a bigger one there. Some speckling on the tail there too, which is pretty neat. And yes, these are very different from the blue tail Firebelly newts that I have. And not that I have Chinese Firebelly newts, Cynops orientalis, which is actually a species that the Japanese Firebellies are often confused for. The Japanese Firebellies are different, very different from Cynops orientalis and Cynops cyanuris, right? So maybe we could actually compare both of these and the blue tails for a brief moment to see some of those differences as we talk more about them. This is just so super cool. Shout out, of course, to the subscriber that sent me these Japanese Firebelly newts. Ben, I can't thank you enough for these. These are so cool, and you know, it is incredibly, I don't know, I'm almost speechless because it's like, it's just so super cool in the first place to be sent any newts, right? You know, the alpines and now these guys, incredibly thankful for these. So again, shout out here to Ben for sending these over. I promise to take very good care of them. So let's break them out of here, get them in this little setup, and get a good look at them outside of the container. I'm going to have to make them adjust in a moment again to their actual enclosure, but this is just to get a really good look at them, especially in this lighting too, because the lighting for the enclosure is different. So, you know, just to get a really good look and some good lighting at that body coloration, at the size, the Firebelly coloration right, and just some of those details before I get them in there. Look at that little guy right there. And so they've clearly been eating some bloodworms, some live black worms, and you know, very, very healthy from the get-go. Heard a lot of great things about them leading up to getting them, and very, very obvious that Ben has raised these very, very well, and you know, I plan to continue that as I keep these. Right, and you can see from the surface here, obviously, just looking at this newt, you could easily see how this is confused for the Chinese Firebelly. But when you look at it from the side, you start seeing some of the speckling and especially the belly pattern. You know, once you get to know the species, then I think those differences, then I think some of those differences become, I don't know if I want to use the word obvious. I feel like that's too strong of a word to use, but getting to know a species better makes those differences become more noticeable. So here on caldata.org, we could take a look at some of the differences between Chinese Firebelly newts and Japanese Firebelly newts. And this article, What Kind of Firebelly Is It?, is the perfect place to look at these differences. And so we could start by looking at the Chinese Firebelly newt, Cynops orientalis. And out of the Firebellies, it goes on to say, and rightfully so I think, that this is the most well-known Firebelly newt. It used to be commonly sold, and this was the Firebelly newt that you would see in pet stores. The Chinese Firebelly grows to be smaller than the Japanese Firebelly. But of course, size alone is not a definitive characteristic unless you would see maybe two adults side by side. And so another actual key detail we can use to differentiate them is the texture of the skin itself, where we see a much smoother skin texture with the Chinese Firebelly as opposed to the Japanese. So far we have size, skin texture, but also another key detail is the tail shape. The Chinese Firebelly's tail is rounded in comparison to the Japanese Firebelly, where we see a pointed tail. So if anything, if you look more closely, perhaps that's the more obvious characteristic to tell the difference between these two. But there's also two more key details to take into consideration here. We also have the actual Firebelly pattern on the belly itself, where the Chinese Firebelly tends to be more blotchy, and the Japanese Firebelly tends to be a little more speckled. However, because nature tends to throw curveballs, of course with Japanese Firebellies, depending on the race or subspecies, you could still see some blotchiness with Japanese Firebellies. And then the last detail to take into consideration here between these two species is the parotid glands. Those bumps right behind the head, they're much larger or more prominent in the Japanese Firebelly newt. So I'll leave the link to this article in the description below. Definitely check it out, give it a read through. There's more than just Japanese and Chinese Firebellies discussed here. There's other species like the paddle-tail newt discussed, because a lot of Asian newts tend to be labeled as Firebellies, and of course we know, especially after looking at these two, that there's much more distinct features and characteristics to really take into consideration here, instead of just labeling everything a Firebelly. And so I've introduced them to this enclosure here. It's just a 10-gallon enclosure with aquatic soil, some driftwood, and a bunch of Java moss to provide some healthy benefits to the enclosure and security for the newts. I've also added some snails, of course, to assist with some tank maintenance in terms of cleaning up some waste and things like that. I also added some cherry shrimp to assist with any waste cleanup and uneaten food, along with a sponge filter to aid in promoting better water quality. And overall temperature is being maintained between a range of 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, but of course as the season becomes colder, the temperature may dip into the 50s as well.
which is perfectly fine for the newts and allows them to go through natural seasonal temperature changes. And as we saw earlier when I unboxed them, there were clearly some live blackworms with them, but here I've decided to feed them some frozen bloodworms. And so they'll be fed a variety of different foods in order to provide them as many different nutrients as possible. And so with all that, these newts are clearly quite young. They're quite small and have quite a ways to go before they mature. And so I'm really looking forward to raising these, interacting with them, and watching them grow. And so with that, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think about the Japanese Firebelly newt. Is this a species you already own, or is this a species that you're just learning about for the first time? Even though this is my first time working with this species, it should be a pretty standard approach to care for the Japanese Firebelly, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how these newts grow. And again, a major shout out and big thanks to Ben. I'll be sure to take really good care of these, and of course provide some updates as they grow, and eventually do a care guide on them as well. And so if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like, share, comment down below, let me know what you think about the Japanese Firebelly, and of course, please subscribe and even consider becoming a member. And until next time everyone, stay curious and journey into the salamander wilds.